Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Glad you could join us. The opening shot was me cleaning head bolts on the wire wheel. I got me a can of Permatex copper spray gasket. Not sponsored, just what I'm going to use. In the comments of the last video, I probably should have clarified myself a little better, but Big Jim from Jim's old school garage, he commented. Now Jim's a trained mechanic and he does a lot of mechanic work, and he said my my cleaning of the gasket off the head was cringeworthy. And then it suddenly dawned on me what he was saying. Scraping gaskets on a cast iron surface, especially a head gasket, is generally frowned upon as a big no-no. And what I was using was a sheet metal paint scraper. Hear that squeal? That's like running a file across a hardened surface. It skips rather than cuts. And that's what I was using. And the Whizzy wheel just had a soft Scotch-Brite roll-lock disc on it. Nothing that would cut cast iron. And I didn't scratch this at all. In fact, any scratch markings you see are from the last time this head was milled or surface ground. That's sheet metal, light sheet metal. It ain't gonna hurt that cast iron surface one bit. I couldn't scratch it if I wanted to. However, if I was using this guy, oops, sorry, crappy camera work. That is a carbide scraper. That's for scraping cast iron. When you're fine finishing cast iron surfaces to slide on each other to retain oil and all that, that baby will cut cast iron. And if I'd have used that to scrape the gasket on the head, I would have hurt the head. So much respect to Jim. I get where he's coming from. So I just wanted to clarify that. If you, I'm not going to go into it any farther, but more crappy camera work, sorry. Google scraping head gaskets or head gasket removing, that kind of thing. You're going to get a myriad of ways to do it. You know, putting the head in a pan of like acetone or some kind of solvent, using a razor blade wouldn't have taken that gasket stuck to that head off. But just go research that. I probably should have said more about that when I was doing it, but anyway, the head is safe. It's not hurt. If anything, the little sheet metal scrapers hurt. So yeah, enough on that. I am going to let's see, I'll probably get some mineral spirits out and start cleaning surfaces with that to make sure that copper coat's going to adhere to the cast iron surfaces of the head and the block, and we'll start bolting this thing back together. I made 4 studs out of old bolts just to help guide the gasket and the cylinder head back on there, and then I can start putting bolts in and then remove the studs as I go, and then we'll torque it all down. The new radiator cap arrived. It came pre-scratched and very dubious spoof can paint job. This was made in India, and it looks like they took the shape and just took a regular radiator cap and brazed to the underside of the shape. Let's see if it fits. Well, that's not promising. Maybe I got it on backwards. Let's try it the other way. Sorry, my camera works all over the map. Okay, there we go. Success. According to the instructions, yeah, I know. You're supposed to spray uniformly on both sides of the gasket. Don't get it in the engine. And then allow the solvent to evaporate before you start the assembly. So let's get to spraying. Smashing my fingers. Got this one a little short. But got it out of there. I know you can't tell from the camera, but I cleaned off the surface on the head where the bolt mates to it, you know, so when I torque it down, there's no crap under there that's gonna interfere with the torque, you know what I mean. So I'm gonna put all these bolts in just finger tight, then I'm gonna get the torque wrench out, double check the spec in the book. I think it's 65 to 70. I think I'll initially torque them to 35, you know, sneak up on it, and then I'll torque it again to the full 70. And don't let me forget to put the wiring conduit back in place where I put the bolts in. Another one of Ford's better ideas is this ridiculous wiring conduit. Can you imagine changing your spark plug wires and having to snake every one of them through this stupid thing and then having to put new ends on them after the fact? What a pain in the neck. And of course there's other wiring that goes through there besides spark plug wires. You'll see a lot of these old N-series Fords where that is missing. Or some guys will just cut them off, you know, and just have this little section where they bolt to the head. Makes it a lot easier to route wiring and still keep the loom somewhat, you know, organized. Yeah, what a dumb idea, along with making the oil pan part of the structural member of the front end. Okay, done ranting. I think what I'm going to do, while I got this down this far, I'll do it off camera. I'm going to pull the distributor cap off and burnish the points while it's nice and accessible like this. Just makes it a whole lot easier. And because when everything's back together, trying to get to that distributor cap is a royal pain. The conduit also gets in the way a couple of these bolts. Stupid stuff drives me nuts. But oh well, we'll get it. Okay, all these were torqued to 35, and then I reset to 70 and hit them all twice. Then when I get it all back together, I'm going to just put some distilled water in the radiator because there's some residual oil still in the system. Try and flush that all out as best I can. So I'll run it, probably work it with the back blade for a little while, and then re-torque them again while the engine's pretty warm, and then drain the cooling system and put antifreeze in it. So the assembly is the exact reverse order of the disassembly. So I'm not going to bore you with all of that. You already saw me take this all apart. I may do a short clip on cleaning out the fins in the radiator, but other than that, I'm going to get going on putting this back together and see if it'll run after all of this. This was a filthy mess. I need a new boot on that spark plug wire, which I didn't have, but I had to replace the connector because it was literally hanging on by a thread. I got the points cleaned, burnished, the cap cleaned up. This is the coil, and this is a front mount distributor that you see typically on the N series. Late in 1950, they went with a side mount with a more traditional distributor cap. But yeah, this is all cleaned up. I'm gonna take a crack at that radiator now. I'm using a plastic tie wrap to clean out all this junk. Run a lesser risk with the plastic damaging the fins, and so that's what I'm doing here. This is going to be slow and boring and tedious. Oh, but hey, this top tank, it's painted black, but it's brass. Check it out. If this wasn't such a clapped out, worn out old Ford, I'd polish that up. Man, I pressure washed this radiator, blew it out with compressed air, and I still had to dig out between all the fins with a little pick, tie wrap, you know, get all the junk out of this radiator. My goodness, this thing was just plugged up. No wonder it got hot. I'm gonna run distilled water in this thing for a while. There's some residual oil in the system, so I'll do a couple of cycles, you know, run it, get it warm, drain it out, and just do that. We're not going to have frost here for another 5 weeks or so, so I'll just run her with distilled water, and then I'll drain it all out, put antifreeze in it. Also, you know, I'll see if I got any leaks. It's cheaper to leak water than antifreeze. I don't want to use hose water because we got a high mineral content in our water here, really alkali, and it'll leave white crusty calcium carbon deposits everywhere. So yeah, she's all back together except the battery. I do have a problem though. The flange on the radiator cap is just a hair too wide, and it hangs up on the sheet metal. I took a hammer and dolly and kind of dressed that up, but it's hung up. So I'm gonna gingerly trim about 1/8 of an inch off of that shape so that radiator cap fits. I'm shaping this with a sheet metal duct hammer. a Malco sheet metal duct hammer. I've had this thing for almost 50 years. I bought this in Bremerton, Washington at Gensco Supply back when I was a young tin bender, up and coming. This thing has got a lot of miles on it. What I'm doing is I'm reforming. I cut about 1/8 of an inch off of this, and I'm reforming this lip, rough forming it. I'll get my square T-dolly out and dress it after I get it rough formed here on the vise, and then we'll go test fit it on the tractor and see if it works. This is probably not Minnesota Outlaw Customs approved, but that's okay. I know Arco loves me anyway. He'll get over it. I am not going to touch up the paint because, quite frankly, it would look out of place on the rest of this crusty old tractor. So the flange turned out good. So let's see now if I got a fit. Perfect. Got a little bit of a gap there to the sheet metal, which is what I want. Because you have to press down on this a little bit to get it to engage. That's perfect. I like it. That's done. And I'm done for the day. I'm going to pick this up again tomorrow morning. I'm going to fire this tractor up and go run it around, see what blows up. All right, battery's all charged, clean. Got new terminal protectors on there. And we are at 6.34 volts, so it's all charged up. I'll get it installed. We'll crank the old Ford up. Oh, and I made a wall hanger out of the old head gasket, or I should say a parts cabinet hanger. But I mean, it's required of every red-blooded American male shop to have a head gasket from an old Ford hanging on the wall somewhere. So, all right, enough of that. Well, the old Ford had the last laugh on me. The battery showed fully charged until I tried to start this thing. It's got no amps left in it. So I put it back on the charger for about an hour, and then she fired right up. So let's take this thing for a ride. Don't sound too bad. I didn't get a lot of blue smoke out the back when I fired it up. So we'll run it for a while. I was going to hook a backplate onto it and work it a little bit, but I discovered my gearbox oil is low. The differential and the transmission all share one sump. The hydraulic pump is there. And so she's a little low. I mean, it's worn out enough as it is, hydraulics. So I got to make her run a tractor supply today. I'll pick up some oil for that, and then I'll take it out and work it. But I'm just going to run it around here, get her warm, put it back in the shop, let it cool down. Then I'll retorque the head, check the radiator, and see if we've got a bunch of oil or just hardly any oil. There's going to be some residual in there, so we just got that water in there to flush it out. It's running really good in spite of all the rotten gas that I put in it. And I'm cruising along here in 4th gear. And oh hey, Ed Goslin, look at that, there's traffic. Yeah, so I'm taking her out for a good run, get her good and warm, and park it, hook the battery charger back up, and I'll check the cooling system, see how it's doing. I'll do this at home. That is warm, but not hot. That is warm, but not hot. Running really good. Don't really get much blue smoke coming out the exhaust either. Nothing but water, no oil. Water's topped off. We're holding about 25 psi oil pressure. If I recall correctly, this thing is like 16 horsepower. I got more horsepower in the latest scrap acquisition than riding lawnmower that I got on this 8N Ford. All right, I need both hands. Looks like I got a utility truck coming at me. We got no milkshake in the oil. We got no oil on the cap to speak of. There's a little telltale sign of milkshake there. That's from the residual oil that was in the block. Yeah, same thing there. I think we're in good shape. That's just what was in there after I drained everything. So I am pleased. I took her for a real long jaunt. She did not get hot. Checked the hoses along the way, as you saw. Everything was running normal. Plenty of power. That little quasi cleanup on the points and all that helped quite a bit. Let's do a perusal around the head gasket here. I'm not seeing anything other than the copper coat I did. Nothing appears to be wet. So when this cools off, I'm going to retorque the head. I'm not going to film that. You guys already saw me doing all of that. So I'm declaring victory. I'll run it like this for a few more days, and I'll drain out that water, put some antifreeze in it, and call her good. And who knows, maybe someday if this Ford actually comes to me, we may revisit it. And it's certainly worthy of restoration, but it needs everything. And for me right now, it's just a work tractor. But it's up and running again. Looks like it's going to be fine. And with that, I'm going to sign off. This video is getting pretty long, so I want to thank you all for watching and hanging with me on this 4-part Ford Resurrection series. And we'll see you real soon on the next one. Bye for now, everybody.